You ever notice how some lines in a song or a poem they just have this music to them, a rhythm that gets stuck in your head? Well, guess what? That is not an accident. It's totally by design. Today, we're going to look at the actual blueprint behind that music. So let's roll it out and see how this whole thing works.
Okay, just listen to this. I'm going to read it with the stress where it falls naturally. The days are cold. The nights are long. You feel that? That steady kind of marching beat? Da-dum, 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 da-dum. It's so powerful, right? And it's memorable because it's built on this really specific repeating pattern.
So that feeling, that this just sounds right feeling, it comes from an underlying structure. It's a framework that poets are using to literally shape our experience of their words. So come on, let's pull back the curtain and take a peek at the architectural plans for poetry.
Now, this blueprint has an official name. It's called prosody. And here's the best way to think about it. If words are the vocabulary of poetry, then prosody is its grammar. It's the whole set of rules and patterns that dictate how the language flows, how it rises and falls, and how it makes that musical effect we can't get enough of.
All right, so the first two big concepts on this blueprint are rhythm and meter. They sound kind of similar, I know, but figuring out the difference between them is the absolute key to unlocking everything else.
So here's the deal. Rhythm is just the general, natural flow of language. I mean, everything we say has some kind of rhythm. But meter's different. Meter takes that natural flow and whips it into shape, organizing it into a super strict repeating pattern. It's like the drum beat playing underneath the melody. It's that structured framework the whole poem is built on.
So how in the world do we actually see this hidden framework? Well, we use a tool called Scansion. Yeah, it sounds a little technical, but it's really just the simple process of reading a line of poetry and marking which syllables get the emphasis and which don't. Think of it like our special decoder ring that makes the invisible blueprint totally visible.
And of course, before we can start marking stresses, we have to agree on the basic unit of sound we're even working with, the syllable. It's simple, really. If you can count the different vowel sounds in a word, you've just counted its syllables. So the word poetry has 3 vowel sounds. Boom, 3 syllables. Easy as that.
Okay, so if syllables are like the atoms of poetry, then what we're about to talk about, metrical feet, are the molecules. These are the small, repeating combos of stressed and unstressed syllables that are the fundamental building blocks of meter. Let's check out the most common ones.
First up, the absolute rock star of English poetry, the Iamb. It's got this nice rising rhythm, an unstressed syllable followed by a stressed one, da-dum. You hear it everywhere in words like about, destroy, because. That da-dum sound, it's basically the heartbeat of English verse.
And the exact opposite of the Iamb is the Trochee. This one is a stressed syllable followed by an unstressed one. Dum, da. This gives you a more forceful falling rhythm. You can hear it in words like pattern, highway, or even double. Dum, da. Totally different feel, right?
Okay, now we're getting into the 3-syllable feet. The Anapest is 2 unstressed syllables followed by a nice, strong stress. Da-da-dum. It has this kind of galloping, rolling feel to it. Listen, understand or intervene. Da-da-dum. You can almost feel the momentum.
And its opposite number is the dactyl. That's 1 stressed syllable followed by 2 unstressed ones. Dum-da-da. Now there's a fantastic little trick for remembering this one. The word dactyl actually comes from the Greek word for finger. And just like your finger, it has 1 long joint followed by 2 shorter ones. Long, short, short. Dum-da-da. Like in the word credible. How cool is that?
So just to recap real quick, here are our 4 main building blocks. You've got the 2-syllable feet, the Iamb, da-dum, and the Trochee, dum-da, and then you have the 3-syllable feet, the Anapest, da-da-dum, and the dactyl, dum-da-da. It's amazing, but a huge chunk of English poetry is built from just these 4 simple units.
So, we have our blocks. We've got our little Lego pieces. Now, how do we actually use them to build the lines of a poem? Well, it's a surprisingly simple 2-step process. First, you just listen for the main foot being used. Is the line mostly going da-dum, da-dum, da-dum? Okay, then it's iambic. Step 2, you just count how many of those feet are in one single line. If there are 5 of those iambs, then you've got iambic pentameter. Yep, the famous meter of Shakespeare. It's just the name of the foot plus the number of feet. That's it.
And here are the fancy Greek-derived names for those counts. 1 foot is monometer, 2 is dimeter, 3 is trimeter, and so on Honestly, the most common ones you're going to see in English are tetrameter, which is 4 feet, and pentameter, which is 5. So if you had a line with 4 trochees, what would it be? Trochaic tetrameter. See? You're already reading the blueprint.
And the structure just keeps scaling up. Our little building blocks, the feet, they combine to make a line. Then those lines group together to form stanzas, like a 2-line couplet or a 4-line quatrain. It's all part of the same beautiful architectural logic.
Now, at this point, you might be thinking, okay, this all sounds a little rigid, a bit robotic. But this is where the real art comes in. Because the best poets, just like the best architects, know that the true beauty isn't just in following the blueprint perfectly. It's in knowing exactly when and how to break it.
We call this variation. A poet will set up a nice, steady meter, get you tapping your foot to the beat, and then bam, they'll deliberately break from it for effect. And here's the wild part. A lot of people argue that most of the actual pleasure we get from prosody comes from that exact moment, that little bit of tension between the pattern we expect and the rhythm we actually get.
One of the most common tricks poets use to create this variation is called substitution, and it is exactly what it sounds like. They just swap one type of foot for another, right in a line where you were expecting something else.
For instance, a classic move is, in a smooth iambic line, all da-dums, a poet might kick it off with a forceful trochee, a dum-da. This reversed foot acts like a jolt. It breaks the pattern to put a huge spotlight on a word and snap you to attention. It's not a mistake. It's a totally deliberate, genius move.
Which, of course, brings us all the way back to where we started. The days are cold. The nights are long. Why does that line feel so solid, so inevitable? Because it follows its iambic pattern with 100% regularity. There are no variations. It is a perfect, unshakable piece of metrical architecture which makes it feel resolute and final.
And that really is the heart of it all. Learning about prosody doesn't ruin the magic of poetry. No way. It does the exact opposite. It pulls back the curtain and shows you the incredible craftsmanship, the intentional choices, and the amazing skill that goes into creating that feeling of magic in the first place.
Because these patterns, they aren't just locked away in old poetry books. They are in song lyrics, they're in advertising jingles, they're even in political slogans. So now that you know what to listen for, now that you can read the blueprint, what hidden structures are you going to start discovering in the language all around you?